structure, and it says below is the structure of this ion. Okay, we can see the all of the valence electrons. So if they're between the atoms, that's a bonding pair. They're bonding. If they're only on one side of an atom, they're not shared. These ones would be non-bonding. These ones are not bonding. This one is between the atoms, it's bonding. So we're looking, but there's two atoms here, so it's going to tell us which one to look at. Count the number of bonding pairs around and the number of lone pairs around the hydrogen atom. So all we have to look at is hydrogen. So all we see touching hydrogen is this bond in the middle. So this one is bonding because it's between the oxygen and the hydrogen. This pair of electrons is forming a bond. And usually we draw it with a line, a dash, instead of two electrons. So this one, there's just one bonding pair, and around hydrogen there's 0 lone pairs. Okay, let's use a couple more. Okay, next example, our Lewis structure is the chlorine molecule. So here, count the number of bonding pairs and the number of lone pairs around the right chlorine. So we're only looking at this chlorine over here. Okay, and if it's between the atoms, that's bonding. So this pair right here is bonding, so that's one pair. So one bonding pair. And then lone pairs are the pairs that are around this right chlorine that aren't shared with this chlorine. So this one's not shared, this one's not shared, this one's not shared. So that's 1, 2, 3 lone pairs, non-bonding. Okay, let's do another one. This one is peroxide. So we're looking for number of bonding pairs and number of lone pairs around the right oxygen. Okay, so again, we're looking at this oxygen. And so there's one pair between them that's bonding. That's the only one that's bonding, and it's a pair. So we're counting the pairs. That's a little bit confusing. And then we're looking for pairs around this oxygen that are not bonding. They're just lone pairs. So 1, 2, 3. 3 lone pairs. Let's see if there's... Oh, it's kind of the same as the last one. Okay, count the number of bonding pairs and the number of lone pairs around the bottom hydrogen. So here's hydrogen. The only electrons it has is this pair. This pair is forming a bond between the carbon and the hydrogen. They're sharing. So if we're showing it between the two atoms, they're sharing. So there's one bonding pair on that hydrogen. And then we look around this hydrogen. Is there any lone pairs? No lone pairs around this hydrogen. So 0. Okay. Let's practice another one. We're looking at number of bonding pairs and the number of lone pairs around the fluorine. So here's the fluorine. There's one pair between the hydrogen and the fluorine. So that's one bonding pair. If it's between, it's bonding. And then 1, 2, 3 pairs of non-bonding or lone pairs. So this is a lone pair. 1, 2, 3. I was hoping there would be an example with a double bond. Let's see. Okay, this one's a little bit different. Count the number of bonding pairs and the number of lone pairs around the oxygen. So here's oxygen in water. And oxygen shares 2 electrons with this hydrogen and 2 electrons with this hydrogen. So oxygen has 1 bond, 2 bonds. So this is different because the other ones only had 1 bond. So this has 2 bonds, and then around oxygen, this pair is not being shared, and this pair is not being shared. So this oxygen has 2 bonding pairs and 2 lone pairs. Okay, here's another one. Count the number of bonding pairs and the number of lone pairs around the carbon atom. So here's our carbon atom. And if we look, we have our octet, 2, 4, 6, 8 electrons around this carbon atom. But they're all being shared. So this pair forms a bond with hydrogen. This pair forms a bond with hydrogen. This pair forms a bond with hydrogen. And this pair forms a bond with oxygen. This carbon has no lone pairs. They're all bonding pairs. So this would have 4 bonding pairs and 0 lone pairs. Nothing that around this carbon is not being shared.